Welcome to ID Refusal Exposed.
Get out.
No, I'm okay.
Get out.
I'm okay.
You take a seat until I get a supervisor.
I'm okay. I appreciate that, officer. I'm okay.
You need to take a seat.
No, I don't need to take a seat.
You're not
Okay, but what do you think is higher, a state policy or a law? A state policy or a law?
Sir,
Which one?
I'm giving you the opportunity to leave on your own right now, okay? If you don't leave right now, I'm going to call Syracuse police. I'm going to ask them to intervene, okay?
Syracuse police's job is to uphold my constitutional right.
What do you do when a government employee cites a policy to overrule the law? In this NY Parole Office, our First Amendment audit is challenging a no filming policy by citing the powerful New York Right to Monitor Act. The confrontation escalates to a clear threat. If you don't leave, I'm going to call Syracuse police. Remember this, the law always trumps policy. If you support exposing police misconduct and upholding civil rights, subscribe to either Refusal Exposed, like, and comment now. The Long Island audit begins with a crucial strategy, consent refusal. Officer Gotti repeatedly requests him to take a seat and then get out. Look at the auditor's response. I don't need to take a seat. I politely decline. This is key. He's refusing a request, not a lawful order. The officer is citing a secure area and no filming policy. The escalation is rapid. In seconds, the supervisor shows up and threatens to call Syracuse police for intervention. This hints at police misconduct early on, relying on an ambiguous no filming policy. Now we get the necessary context from the Long Island audit. The Senator Hughes New York State office building and the DOCCS office. Officer Gotti demands the auditor step out because it's a state building and requires you to be vetted for a reason. The auditor maintains composure and begins gathering evidence. Signs like authorized personnel only and violators are subject to arrest clearly define the restricted area. This is a critical moment in the voluntary interaction. The auditor asks Gotti about his legal status. Are you a law enforcement officer? Gotti confirms, I'm a peace officer in New York State. The auditor has successfully ID'd the officer and established their jurisdiction. Does the reason Officer Gotti gave for the auditor to leave constitute reasonable suspicion for an investigatory stop? Comment below and let us know your thoughts. At this point, the communication shifts from request to command. The officer tries to shift the legal burden to the Long Island audit by pointing to a no filming sign. The auditor's best technique here is controlling the space. The officer tries to lure him closer to see the sign, but the auditor refuses. You don't tell me to come here. This prevents a physical escalation or pretext for assault. The confrontation peaks with the supervisor's arrival. He immediately uses a discriminatory tactic. This room is only for releases and releases only. Crucially, the supervisor refuses to discuss the law, a major tactical error. The auditor drops the critical legal defense, the New York Right to Monitor Act. This is the difference between local policy and state law. He reminds them that the right to film public servants while performing their duty is a constitutional right protected by state law. The clear threat, I'm going to call Syracuse police to intervene. Yet the auditor remains calm. He doesn't budge. He calls him out. The police's job is to uphold my constitutional rights. This is key to fighting police misconduct and unlawful investigatory detention. Is the supervisor getting emotional and forgetting his legal accountability? Comment below and tell us if this action constitutes unlawful detention.
Gives New York State residents and citizens the right to record law enforcement in the course of their duty.
Okay, well, not in here.
Yeah, you can record in here.
Not in this waiting room.
Yes, you can.
This is a secure waiting room. This is a secure.
Yes, you can. That's not a law. You need to learn to read the law. Maybe if you didn't read the law, that's a policy.
This is a state policy.
That's okay, but what do you think is higher, a state policy or a law? A state policy or a law? Which one?
I'm giving you the opportunity to leave on your own right now, okay? If you don't leave right now, I'm going to call Syracuse police. I'm going to ask them to intervene, okay?
Syracuse Police's job is to uphold my constitutional rights.
Are you going to leave on your own?
Call the Syracuse. Call the
Are you going to
police.
leave on your own?
Sir, I'm engaged in a statutorily protected activity.
Are you?
That is an authorized personnel only over there.
Let's get him over here. Yep. Let's get him over here right now.
You're being unreasonable. You should look at the law.
After the threat of Syracuse police intervention, the auditor remains firm, shifting to the investigative journalist role. He asks pointed questions about police misconduct and accountability at NYDEOCCS, referencing recent scandals. When the parole officers refuse to engage, the auditor pivots to a lawful administrative request for Freedom of Information Law, FOIL forms. This is a brilliant tactic, shifting focus from filming to another legal right, forcing officers to serve him or commit an administrative error. The supervisor makes one final request: no filming of any releases. The auditor agrees, reinforcing his professionalism and intent. My intention is to record law enforcement. Intriguingly, the officer then closed the window and locked the door, an admission that the threat to arrest tactic failed. Critical analysis. The act of locking the door is evidence of policy conflict. The officers wanted the auditor to comply with a non-existent no filming policy, yet they themselves violate their own policy. Door must be locked at all times. This is a classic sign of the rules for D but not for me mentality. The successful outcome. The auditor leaves voluntarily, noting that Syracuse police never showed up. The true result of this First Amendment audit is delivering a free education on constitutional rights to unprofessional public servants. Following this audit, will these DEOCC officers stop violating the NY Right to Monitor Act? Or will they continue with police misconduct? Comment below to let us know your thoughts on their accountability. In the end, the Long Island audit chose to leave on his own terms without being arrested or physically removed by Syracuse police. This is the clear victory for constitutional rights and government accountability. The core lesson here is that the New York state law, specifically the Right to Monitor Act, always trumps any office filming policy. These public servants failed to know the law and exhibited police misconduct by threatening detention. Let's grade this. The auditor's consent, refusal strategy, and legal knowledge earned him an A grade. The DOCC officer's conduct, including refusing officer identification and threatening arrest, earned a D grade. Following this First Amendment audit, the auditor may consider potential legal action such as a 42 U.S.C. Section 1982 lawsuit against the officers for police misconduct in violating his constitutional rights. Thanks to Long Island Audit for their work. If you want to see this tyranny exposed, subscribe to ID Refusal Exposed now.